Prices continue to slowly come down, but inventory is also lower than it's been since the beginning of 2025. If you want to know what's happening with the Durham region real estate market, then you'll want to keep watching. I'm going to give you all of the numbers and tell you exactly what we saw in November. My name is Vilija Truelove, and I'm a local Durham region real estate agent. If you're looking to make a move in the Durham region, you can schedule a consultation, which you can do through the calendar link in the description below, or you can just give me a call, send me a text or an email. All of my contact information is down below. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any of my future videos. And at the same time, you can also go ahead and download some of my really great free resources to help get you started. Now, let's get into the numbers for November. So we had 622 sales in November. This is a decrease from the 715 sales in October. November is typically a slower month in real estate, but when we compare things to a year ago, we had 739 sales in November 2024. So we are down a good bit from the sales we saw last year at the same time. We had 1,186 new listings come to the market in November. This is actually a good decrease compared to the 1,792 new listings that we had in October. But comparing again to last year, we had 1,198 new listings come up in October 2024. So we're very similar numbers to last year, only 12 fewer new listings. Now, active listings, which is how many properties we have available for sale at the end of the month, we ended the month with 2,154 active listings, which is a decrease from the 2,571 active listings at the end of last month. It's also actually the lowest number of active listings that we've seen since March of this year. So inventory is lower than it's been for most of 2025. But again, when we compare things to last year, we are still up from the 1,817 active listings we had in October 2024. Now, looking at terminated and expired listings, when a property is taken off the market that hasn't sold, it could be because the listing has expired or the seller has terminated the listing and taken it off the market for any number of reasons. We had 763 terminated listings in the Durham region in November, so more terminated listings than sales, which is another theme that we've seen this year. But comparing to last month, we had 1,063 terminated listings in October, so quite a bit less month over month. And again, comparing things to last year, we had 693 terminated listings in November 2024. So we are still up from that number. Expired listings, so listings that came to the end of their contract without selling, we had 163. We are at that time of year where people may decide to take their homes off the market for the holiday season and then relist in January or the spring. So we are likely to see an increase of new listings in the new year. Next, we can look at months of inventory and sales to new listings ratio to try to determine what kind of market we're in. So months of inventory, that tells us the number of months that it would take to completely sell the homes that are currently listed for sale. And that's based on the area's current rate of sales activity and if no new listings came on the market. November, we were at 3.5 months. Anything under 3 to 4 months of inventory is typically considered a seller's market. 4 to 6 is a balanced market. So this number suggests more of a balanced market for November, leaning more towards sellers. Sales to new listings ratio. This is the ratio between the number of homes sold and the number of new listings entering the market. That was at 52.4% for November. Typically lower than 40% is considered a buyer's market, and between 40 and 60% is considered a balanced market. So both of these numbers are suggesting that we are in more of a balanced market. Though number of sales is still quite low, we didn't have as many new listings come to the market, which is what pushed these numbers more from buyer favoring to a more balanced market month over month. Now, prices. The average price in Durham, this is for all home types, was $840,833. This is another decrease from last month's average of $851,764. So we're down an average of $10,931 month over month. Looking at specific areas in the Durham region, again, this is for all home types, Pickering saw an increase of $32,424. Ajax saw an increase of $3,100. Whitby saw a decrease of $6,272. Oshawa also saw a small increase of 3,507, and Clarington decreased an average of $22,496. Now, I don't typically give numbers for Brock and Scugog, but these areas are, of course, included in the Durham region stats. So I wanted to mention them this month because these areas actually saw pretty big decreases in the average price, which is what pushed our total average price down a little bit more. Brock decreased more than 100,000 month over month, and Scugog was at around 96,000 less on average. And then we can also look at the median price to get a good idea of what prices are doing. And I've always said that I like this because it doesn't take the extreme high and low numbers into account. So the median price in October was 801,000, and November it went down to 789,449. So a decrease of 11,551. Now again, comparing this to a year ago in November 2024, we had an average price of $904,226. So we're down an average of $63,393 compared to last year. We saw a 98% sale to list price ratio, and last month this was the same. So many homes are still selling close to their asking price. We are still seeing offer dates being set, but I wouldn't say it's the norm right now. Many sellers are choosing to price at where they feel the value lies and are often leaving room to negotiate. We had an average of 30 days on the market to sell, and listing days on market, which takes into account if a home has been listed multiple times, that was at 51 days. So what do all these numbers mean if you're thinking about buying, selling, or you're just keeping an eye on the Durham market? Well, first, the big picture. This is still very much a slow, cautious market. Prices continue to soften, sales remain low, and although inventory dipped this month, that is pretty typical for November heading into the holidays. When we zoom out, we can see that compared to last year, we're still carrying more inventory and fewer sales. That combination keeps overall pressure on the prices. So even though some stats like months of inventory and the sales to new listings ratio suggest a balanced market, that balance is a little bit misleading. What we're really seeing is a market that really feels like a buyer's market, but it's behaving like a balanced one simply because there's fewer listings that came on the market in November. Once January hits and listings pick back up, we're likely to move right back toward that obvious, more buyer-leaning conditions, unless sales activity also happens to climb. So for buyers, if you've been waiting for the right time to get into the Durham region market, this winter is shaping up to be one of the most favorable times we've had in many years. Prices are lower than last year, significantly in some areas, and there's less competition. You also have negotiating power right now because sellers are generally pricing closer to value and not expecting huge bidding wars. With average days on market sitting at 30 and listing days on market at 51, you often have the luxury of time in a lot of cases. You can shop around, you can do your proper due diligence, and avoid panic buying. And another advantage, we are into a seasonal lull. A lot of sellers will relist in January at price points that reflect the slower market. So if you're planning to buy, get pre-approved now, and you can position yourself early in the new year, which could be the sweet spot before demand possibly starts to pick back up in the spring. And for sellers, you can still sell successfully right now, but strategy matters more than ever. Pricing is the biggest factor in this market. Buyers are educated, they're cautious, and very aware of the market softening. Homes that are priced well and show well are still selling close to the list price, as we can see with that 98% sale to list price ratio. But overpriced homes are sitting, they're terminating and relisting, which is exactly why we've seen more terminations this year than sales. If you're thinking of selling in early 2026, now is the time to start preparing. This means staging, professional photos, anything that removes buyer hesitation and helps you stand out. And depending on where you are, local trends matter. For example, Pickering, Ajax, and Oshawa saw slight increases this month, while Whitby and Clarington didn't. So understanding your hyper-local market and your specific neighborhood is key. So where's the market heading? Based on the numbers and what we're seeing across the GTA, we're likely to continue drifting sideways to slightly down through the winter unless we see a significant change in interest rates or buyer sentiment. The demand is still out there. People need to move. Families grow, life happens, but affordability is still the main challenge. On top of all that, we have to acknowledge what's happening outside of real estate. Economic uncertainty is playing a big role in buyer confidence right now. Over the past several months, we've seen more conversations around job losses, reduced hours, and companies tightening up their hiring. Even if someone hasn't been personally affected, people are hearing about layoffs or feeling unsure about how secure their income is. And that affects how comfortable they are making a big financial decision, like buying a home. When buyers don't feel confident about their jobs or the overall economy, they tend to take a wait and see approach. They delay making offers, they take longer to shop, and they're more cautious when it comes to committing to a mortgage payment. So that caution contributes directly to fewer sales and longer days on market, which we're seeing in the numbers. So it's not just interest rates or inventory driving this market, it's also how people are feeling about their financial future. And until we see more economic stability, we're probably going to continue experiencing a slower paced, more conservative market. But the good news is this: markets driven by caution often create opportunity. When fewer buyers are active, the ones who are in the market tend to benefit from more choice, more negotiating power, and less pressure. And for sellers, the key is simply understanding the mindset of today's buyer and positioning your home so that it becomes one of the few that really stands out as a safe, smart purchase. This early spring market will be very telling. If inventory floods in and sales don't follow, we'll see even more downward pressure on prices. On the other hand, if rates trend downward in 2026 and buyers start to feel more confident in job opportunities or other changes to the economy, that could bring more of the buyers back sooner rather than later, and prices could hold steady. Overall, we're in a market where strategy wins. Whether you're buying or you're selling, having a data-driven approach is what makes the difference. So if you'd like to talk about the top strategies and you want to come up with a game plan for buying or selling in this current market, like I said, you can book a consultation at the link in my bio, or just send me a text or an email. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates in the future. I'll see you in the next video.